Good morning, and thanks for joining us for live coverage of the procession for fallen Clark County Sheriff Sergeant Jeremy Brown. I'm Angelica Thornton.
And I'm Evan Schreiber. Sergeant Brown was shot and killed while working undercover in East Vancouver last month. We've been tracking this tragedy since then. His memorial happening in 2 hours at Ilani Casino. And we are following all of it right now. Let's go right to Vancouver as we're getting a live look at what's happening outside Clark College right now. That's where that procession is starting. That's where we're seeing officers lined up this morning. Our photographer, Mike Warner, has been there for hours now watching those vehicles get set.
Yeah, about 300 emergency vehicles from law enforcement and EMS agencies from all over the Northwest and beyond really are participating in this procession this morning. Mike, I know you've been there for a while. You've been talking to people. You've been checking things out. This has to be a tough scene.
It is a tough scene out here, and a lot of people are using phones and stuff out here, so I apologize for that. There's a lot of interference, but what you're looking at right now, there's probably about 100 or so police vehicles, fire vehicles that are lined up in the parking lot here at Clark College. And what we're waiting for right now, you can see some search and rescue and some other officers that are lined up on the street right here. What they're waiting for right now is the family and the body of Sergeant Brown to get here. Apparently they're pulling up in the hearse here in a few. What they're going to do is they're going to pull up to the front here and they're going to stop. I believe they're going to stop, and that's when they're going to start lining up and the cars are going to drive down the street. The mood is definitely somber here, but also noticing, I was talking to a few people, it's somber, but there's also a lot of people that are showing a lot of pride for the folks that have come out here. I don't have a very good view of all the people lined up here, but let me show you just people with flags. I've talked to a couple people, young people, some veterans that are out here, just wanting to pay their respect to Sergeant Brown here as he comes by. They're really glad to see the community come out here and show the support. And I was able to see a lot of arrivals of officers, and they're coming from all over the state, both Oregon, Washington, and probably around the rest of the country. You can see a lot of Clark County vehicles right there. Their lights are turned on. They're waiting for the arrival of Sergeant Brown here. A lot of fire vehicles as well. Portland Fire is here. I've seen Veterans Affairs vehicles. I've seen vehicles from all the way up in Bremerton and Washington. They're from everywhere. And you can see pretty extensive. A lot of these officers were out of their cars shooting all the lights that are on right now with their cameras, just because it's a surreal scene to see all these officers out here getting ready to pay their respects. So it is somber out here, definitely somber, but also a good sense of community as they wait for Sergeant Brown's body to arrive with the family here.
Yeah, Mike, we're getting a split screen right now as we're showing our viewers at home and those watching on KATU.com. On the left side of the screen, that overhead look from Chopper 2, just showing all those vehicles lined up one by one in their pretty clean rows right now as they are getting set to head off on this procession. You've been there for a while. You've been watching these vehicles pull up. You've been talking to people who've been seeing that going on. If you could paraphrase a little bit, what have they been saying to you as this scene has been unfolding, as they've been watching that happen?
Just saying that it's really sad that this day and age there's so much violence and so much gun violence, and people are really just taken aback by how much violence there is out there, and they're just really sad that this kind of thing is happening. And I know this happens all the time, but just to bring it to this community, we haven't had a Clark County officer shot in the line of duty. I think it was 50 years. I'm probably off by that a little bit, but so long, and it's just really sad that we have to come together for this. But at the same time, like I said, they're just saying that it's really great to see all these officers from across the state, from across Oregon and Washington come out here, and as well as all the people that are out here too. There's a lot of people lined up on the streets. There's a couple of buses parked here next to me, so I don't have a really good shot of it, but there's probably a good 100 people lined up on the street here. They have flags. I've seen little kids with flags, and they're just really happy to see the turnout for this, and they're of course waiting for this moment, and a lot of people are anxious. One girl described it as excited, but then she corrected herself. She's not really excited, but just kind of anxious to see this, and kind of leaves a lump in your throat. I don't know if I've seen a number of these before, and it really does. When you see all these firefighters and police officers out here, it just gives you a true sense of the sacrifice these people make to come out here and protect us all the time.
Yeah, Mike, I know you've been covering these things for decades, unfortunately, but it never gets any easier. And we do have a great shot from Chopper 2 on the left side of the screen where you can see all the vehicles lined up, and it's It must make the sergeant's family and colleagues so proud when they see vehicles all the way from Montana and Idaho and Utah, all these states that are sending representatives from their departments to say we are with you and to pay tribute to the sergeant.
Well, it's certainly a lot of somber folks out here right now, Evan, but it's really driving the point home that Mike was making just a few minutes ago. This is not just a law enforcement loss. This is not just one family's loss. This is really a community's loss. And you can see how many people have decided to come out here to the I-5 overpass out near Ridgefield. We're about 3 miles from ilani, where that memorial service is going to be taking place. And again, it's still a few hours away, but just the amount of people already here right now really speaking volumes to the outpouring of support that's been coming in from this community. And as I was making my way up here, coming from Vancouver at multiple overpasses, I was seeing different flags and messages being left behind by people. So we're really seeing that large outpouring of support. And to get a better idea as to what brings individuals out here, we've been having the opportunity to talk to some folks who have come out. And ma'am, you and I have been talking through the morning, and it's nice to get to talk to you again. Can you just give us an idea as why you're out here this morning?
To pay respect to Officer Brown and just let his family know that we're here for them if they need us. I mean, it was a tragedy that should have never happened, and it's just my way of paying respect to him and other law enforcement as well.
And it's been nearly 2 decades since Clark County has experienced something like this, losing a deputy in the line of duty. What did this mean emotionally for this community?
Well, I don't know for the community, but for me it was very heartbreaking, and like I said before, it was a tragedy that should have never happened. And
what do you want the family to know while you're out here?
That we're here for them, and that Vancouver and Clark County are behind them, and if they need anything, I know that just ask, and we're all here for you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and for talking to us this morning. And this is, again, part of the messages that we've heard from individuals. In fact, I had the opportunity to talk to another woman who got very emotional talking about her connection to the Clark County Sheriff's Office. One of her close friends is married to one of the deputies that worked with Sergeant Brown, and the emotion that she had in her voice, knowing what they're going through, really brought her down. But to see this type of gathering thus far, and even to my left, I don't mean to close that off, you can see just the line of emergency vehicles showing up here as well. The cherry pickers holding the flags way high up into the sky. And then I'm sure you could pick up the audio of it. The horns of all the vehicles driving over under the overpass, I should say. Again, just 3 miles from ilani. So it's a situation we're going to keep monitoring. It's obviously, as you guys have been mentioning, it's kind of hard to tell when exactly this processional of vehicles is set to arrive, but certainly they're already here and ready to share their support. And it won't be long now before those who are in those vehicles getting ready to hop onto I-5 and drive down will see this outpouring of support from the community. But for now, I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Dan, thank you. Let's take another live look from Chopper 2 over at Clark College, where the procession is set to start any minute now, really. Let's talk a little bit more about Sergeant Brown. He was 46 years old. He leaves behind a wife, Jill, and 5 adult children. His family, friends, and colleagues say he prioritized his family, faith, and friends in addition to his job. It looks like this might be starting right now. Here come a bunch of motorcycle officers. We're going to keep watching that to see if this is the official start of the procession. Sergeant Brown loved adventuring, camping, and hiking, and his obituary said his love for good food was second only to his love for his family. I can tell you he was born in Portland. He went to high school in Sweet Home. He was a 15-year veteran of the Sheriff's Office. He worked as a corrections deputy and a patrol deputy. He was working as a detective when he was shot and killed on July 23rd, but he was posthumously promoted to sergeant. Brown had previously served with the Washington State Department of Corrections and as a reserve officer with the Missoula County Sheriff's Office in Montana. That's why you'll probably see a lot of vehicles from Montana attending the memorial service today. Sergeant Brown was also a military police officer in the Marines.
In fact, we are watching this live video right now as we are expecting the procession to begin any minute right now. This is from Mike Warner's shot on the ground, getting a look from his camera. Mike, you're seeing these officers drive up in their motorcycles. Obviously, lights flashing right there. Have you been told anything about the plans as we speak?
Yeah, the plan is going to be, so we're on Vancouver Way, I believe it is what this is. What the plan is, they're bringing the motorcycles in, and the motorcycles are going to go past me, and they're going to go down there to Mill Plain, and they're going to stage down there. They're going to lead the procession. And what they're doing right now is the family, I believe, it's what I was told by some search and rescue guys, the family is coming over from the funeral home with the body, and I believe that is with Sergeant Brown, and I believe that's what's happening now. They're coming over from the funeral home, and they're going to come in here and kind of stage, and they're going to lead the casket and the hearse, the motorcycle officers, and then all the police and everything will follow behind them, all the security. So that's what they're doing right now. There's probably, I've counted, well, I haven't really counted, but there's probably a good 50 motorcycles that have passed so far. So it's one of those really long processions. It looks really, really cool coming down the street like that with all those lights. It's just, like I said before, it just kind of leaves a lump in your throat when you see this. It's so amazing, the kind of support that they give their fallen comrades. So this is going to start pretty soon, I have a feeling. We're just waiting for Sergeant Brown to show up with the family.
Yeah, Mike, you're not seeing the view overhead, but everyone watching is seeing that right now. And Chopper 2 is showing that hearse, that casket arrive as you're speaking right there. So we're going to hear a lot of thoughts today from Sergeant Brown's fellow law enforcement officers. We're going to hear from the sheriff. We know the sheriff has said in the past, just days after Brown's death, we heard from Clark County Sheriff Chuck Atkins in a news conference. He took time to speak directly to Jeremy Brown's family, saying, quote, "I'd like to say to Jeremy's family how sorry I am that this happened. I can only imagine what you're going through, and I pray for each of you and that you have the support of those you love to help get you through this difficult time, because this is going to go on for a lifetime. This isn't something that goes away," end quote, as we are watching from your viewpoint, Mike Warner, right now on the ground as that casket and hearse are arriving there for the procession.
Imagine this is so tough for everyone who worked with Sergeant Brown, not just in the Clark County Sheriff's Office, but just the city of Vancouver, the county. Last week, the mayor, Vancouver Mayor Ann McInerney Ogle, issued a statement about Brown's death. She said Jeremy was a valued member of our law enforcement community that works around the clock to make Vancouver safer. He was also a father, a son, a husband, and a friend. His life was taken tragically, and the deep loss felt by so many defies words. We hope that caring and compassion in our hearts provide some comfort to those closest to him, and that the apprehension of all suspects over the weekend gives us some confidence in justice.
You're seeing right now those first law enforcement vehicles pulling out of the driveway there. And so this is going to be a long row of officers, of course, making their way through Clark County right now for the procession for Clark County Sheriff's Detective Jeremy Brown, who was shot and killed Friday night, July 23rd. So his memory, that incident, still fresh in so many minds as we're seeing people standing there in solidarity. We saw some law enforcement officers salute as those vehicles are driving by, and this is going to be a lengthy line of cars that are making their way, as of course we've been telling you about this procession leaving from Clark Community College, and later on that memorial service planned for 1 o'clock at ilani Casino.
So we've got thousands of people expected at ilani Casino. There's even an overflow location for people who might not be able to get into the casino to watch the memorial service in person. It is open to the public. And then we've got the procession happening right now. So this is going to be a big deal going up I-5. We have a map to show you exactly what's going to be happening over the next 45 minutes or so, maybe even longer. Here's a close look at the procession route. It starts here on Fort Vancouver Way, then it's heading down onto East Mill Plain Boulevard to merge onto I-5 North. It will then continue up I-5 to the Le Center Cowlitz Reservation, exit 16, go west onto Le Center Road, Cowlitz Way, and end at ilani Casino. They're asking people to pull over on I-5, obviously, if you see the procession, to pull over and stop and let it pass. And there are going to be a lot of people on those overpasses. We've already seen it. We saw it with Dan just a few minutes ago.
A lot of roadblocks, a lot of delays, so just plan for that if you're not involved in this procession. But we are seeing thousands of people involved in this procession right now, as we are seeing the view from Chopper 2 overhead as that hearse, that casket, makes its way out of Clark College on its way to the memorial service for Clark County Sheriff's Detective Jeremy Brown, posthumously named Sergeant Jeremy Brown. He was promoted posthumously by Clark County Sheriff Chuck Atkins. He was a 15-year veteran of the Clark County Sheriff's Office. Of course, we've been following the tragic developments since his death. He was shot and killed in East Vancouver on July 23rd. As we are watching the whole community come out to pay their respects right now, the law enforcement community, members of the public paying their respects, as you're seeing on the right side of your screen, those lights on, those lights flashing, those vehicles one by one making their way out of Clark Community College.
Again, the memorial service begins at 1 o'clock. K2's Genevieve Rayom is live at ilani Casino where it's happening. I know, Genevieve, you were just sort of briefed on what to expect there. What do you know?
Well, I can tell you that here at ilani, we are expecting that motorcade to get here around 11:50 today. And then, of course, as you just said, the funeral will begin at 1 o'clock this afternoon. What we do know is that the casket will be led in by the honor guard, and then the family will follow right afterwards. The family has asked, understandably, for a lot of privacy during this event. So we will not be filming the family at any point. We do know that Sergeant Brown's widow will be speaking, so we will get to hear what she has to say about her husband, but we are obviously respecting the privacy of this family who is mourning with this community. We are at ilani right now, right outside, waiting for that motorcade to get here, and there are dozens of officers already here. They've already started lining the street, waiting for that motorcade to come up here. And again, it's not going to be here for another roughly half an hour or so, but this is going to be an all-day event with the service starting at 1 o'clock, and it's expected to go until about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So roughly about 2 hours, just shy of 2 hours, we will be inside ilani Casino. We know there's room for about 2,500 people inside the service, and they are expecting that to fill up. There is, however, a nearby church which will be live streaming the event for people who don't get here in time to get a seat. So, things are starting to quiet down here. People are getting ready for the motorcade to get here, and then at 1 o'clock things will begin, and we will go inside to watch the service, and then of course we'll be back out here at 4, 5, and 6, letting you know what we heard and the memories and the special moments people had to say, special mementos people had to say about Sergeant Jeremy Brown. So we'll keep an eye on the motorcade. We'll let you know once it gets to our area here, but for now we'll send it back to you in the studio. Angelica.
Yeah, actually, Genevieve, Evan Schreiber here, and we appreciate the update there as we're checking in on that memorial service. Of course, you mentioned, we heard you talk about it, how his wife is asking for a lot of privacy in this situation, but publicly they have come out with some kind comments for their beloved family member, his wife Jill, and 5 adult children, putting it out in the obituary that family, friends, and colleagues say he prioritized his family, faith, and friends in addition to his job. His obituary said his love for good food was second only to his love for his family. So we expect to hear a huge outpouring of support, even privately from the family there, but also publicly from his fellow law enforcement with the Clark County Sheriff's Office, as we are keeping track of this procession that is leaving Clark College right now, and that's what you're seeing on your screen. An overhead look at I-5, and of course on the ground on the right side of your screen, just outside Clark College, as people and those law enforcement vehicles are lined up heading out right now.
Let's talk to Mike Warner again. He's been at Clark College for the past couple of hours, and he's seen, at this point, dozens and dozens of EMS vehicles, emergency vehicles, fire trucks, police cars pass by. Mike?
Yeah, definitely, again, leaves a lump in your throat. Probably, I don't know, maybe 100 vehicles have come out so far. They still got another parking lot and a half to go. You can see all those vehicles. And just really, what's really cool for me is just seeing from every part of the Pacific Northwest, you see all sorts of different cars. I couldn't even begin to name where all these are coming from, but I've just seen up in Bremerton, up in Washington, over in Spokane. I've seen Grant County. I've seen down in Deschutes County. I've seen over in Idaho. There's just so many police that come out here, and it's amazing to watch them support each other, as well as a lot of people out here. There's a lot of people on the roadway. You can't necessarily see them all from my shot, but way down there to the south of where I am, there's probably about 100 people standing along the roads with flags that just saluting, just standing quietly. It's really, really cool to see. They're still emptying this parking lot. I'd say they probably got another 10 minutes to go to get all these cars out of here. But yeah, it's really cool to see all these police cars. Unfortunately, we're here for this reason, but neat to see the support for Sergeant Brown here as they get this procession going.
Yeah, Mike, he had a long law enforcement career, 15 years with the Clark County Sheriff's Office. Before that, the Washington Department of Corrections. He was also worked for the Missoula County Sheriff's Office in Missoula, Montana. And then he was in the Marines. So I'm guessing we're going to see representatives from all of those agencies there today.
Mike, I know you talked about just the lump in your throat, what people are seeing out there. You mentioned sort of this is while it's unfortunate, it's also not something these folks see every day. We looked it up. Clark County Sheriff's Office hasn't had a death of one of its law enforcement officers in the line of duty since 2004. That's according to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund. So 17 years since that happened. As you can see, they are paying their respects today. A lot of activity going on throughout the state as well to honor Detective Sergeant Jeremy Brown as well. Washington Governor Jay Inslee putting out the notice today that, quote, "I am deeply saddened by the death of Clark County Sheriff's Deputy Jeremy Brown. He's directing that Washington State and United States flags at all state agency facilities be lowered to half-staff in his memory," and that's going to happen until close of business or sunset tonight. So a day-long honor, a day-long memorial for Detective Sergeant Jeremy Brown. As we are watching this live footage, right side of your screen, that line of cars still proceeding outside Clark Community College. On the left side of your screen, the view from Chopper 2 with the casket overhead.
This is very similar to what we saw in 2011 when Rainier Police Chief Ralph Painter was killed in the line of duty. That was such a tough day for so many law enforcement officers around the Northwest, and we're in that same position again today. And for strangers who just want to stand there and pay their respects as his casket comes by in the hearse. Dan McCarthy is at an overpass in Ridgefield. He's been talking to people all day. It's an emotional scene there. I know the fire trucks are lined up, Dan, so it's kind of hard to hear. But you've been talking to people there who probably don't even know the sergeant.
Yeah, and many don't. I mean, this is all about delivering a message to law enforcement that they're on their side, Angelica, and that's why they're here. But I have had the opportunity to speak to some folks who actually do know Jeremy Brown, either through a friend or through a close family member who's in the department. And so they're speaking to the messages that we've learned already about Sergeant Brown here in the past few days. As you guys have been talking about, he was an avid hiker. He loved the outdoors. He loved food almost as much as he loved his own family, which again survived by 5 adult children and his wife Jill. But clearly he has left, regardless of whether they know him or not, a tremendous impact on this community. And the loss is certainly not being downplayed by anybody here, because as we've been talking about, this is the first time that a member of the Clark County Sheriff's Office lost their life in the line of duty since 2004. So truly it is a rare occurrence, a tragic occurrence when it does happen, and part of the reason that we're getting this emotional outpouring of support. And you mentioned the turnout by our local agencies. This is Clark County Fire and Rescue that you're looking at on your screen now. It's quite a shot, honestly, to be sitting here and looking at how they're surveying over the overpass here at I-5, again, about 3 miles south of Genevieve, where she's at ilani, where the memorial service is going to be taking place later on in the afternoon. But they're blocking the traffic here over the overpass so people can safely gather along the side of it. All their flags out. I'm counting about over 100 people at this point, each with their own messages to bring to not only their local law enforcement, but also the family of Sergeant Brown, how heartbroken they are for what they're going through right now, and also relief, which was something that was shared by the sheriff for Clark County over the apprehension of the 3 suspects connected to Sergeant Brown's death on July 23rd. So we're truly getting a wide variety of messages. And of course, we also have information if you're watching at home and want to be able to donate or give back to the family of Sergeant Brown or to the Clark County Sheriff's Office. They're recommending that you do that directly through Clark County, because there have been a few scams already that they've been warning about. The sheriff delivering a stern message about that during his press conference last week. But again, there's plenty of opportunities for people to bring those messages forth. So really just want to get our shot set up at this point, because we're anticipating really any moment now that these law enforcement vehicles are going to start making their way down I-5. People are starting to gather, and the anticipation is building here, and we don't want to miss that shot. So I'm going to keep it down now and send it back.
Okay, yeah, let's watch as they approach the overpass there in Ridgefield. And I'm glad you mentioned that memorial fund, Dan, because it happens so often. Fake GoFundMe pages are out there. So the Clark County Sheriff's Office is asking people to donate to the official memorial fund, the Brown Family Memorial Fund. And you can do that at any branch of IQ Credit Union. You can find that information at katu.com. Just one way to support the family.
There's been an outpouring of support from elected leaders as well. It's something we've been tracking since Detective Sergeant Jeremy Brown's death. Congresswoman Jamie Herrera Butler tweeting out really moments after he was shot and killed, quote, "I'm very saddened by the news that a Clark County Sheriff's deputy was killed while in the line of duty. My heart goes out to the deputy's family, friends, and fellow law enforcement officers." So we've been seeing a lot of elected officials come out and speak about his death. We've been seeing a lot of his colleagues at the Clark County Sheriff's Office talk about his death as well, what he means to them. As there we go, as we are seeing from where Dan McCarthy's vantage point is, as that procession is coming right there along I-5 as we speak.
Yeah, this is in Ridgefield. Chopper 2 is also in the air showing us their progress. Let me tell you what Governor Jay Inslee said about Sergeant Jeremy Brown's death. He said, "I want to offer our whole state's condolences to the family of Clark County Sheriff Deputy Jeremy Brown, who was lost in a tragic shooting, not only to his family, but his staff at the Sheriff's Department and the whole community. He was a 15-year veteran of the office. He was known as a tremendous leader in helping train other officers. He's a former State Department of Corrections employee whose entire career was committed to law enforcement. Our hearts are with the Brown family, and I hope everyone will recognize the extent of that loss and the difficulty this profession faces." And we are witnessing that today. We are witnessing people who are recognizing the extent of this loss. Genevieve Rayom also saw a lot of that on her way up to ilani Casino. I know, Genevieve, on your drive up there, you said you saw a lot of signs, a lot of things that people had put out to say, "I'm sorry, I'm thinking about Sergeant Jeremy Brown."
Yeah, certainly, Angelica. A lot of flags, people gathering on the overpass, waiting for that procession to pass underneath them. And those started almost immediately once we got into Washington from the drive up to Portland here to ilani Casino in Ridgefield. And, you know, it was probably a handful of overpasses that people had already started gathering on. And that was at around 10 o'clock this morning. Like I said, we are here at ilani, and I want to give you a look at what's happening right now. You can see several different agencies, dozens of different agencies gathering, waiting for that processional to arrive. You see flags from Thurston County, Tacoma Police, Seattle Police, and many, many others that are waiting for the casket to arrive here. Again, like I said, it'll be led in by the Honor Guard, and the family will follow shortly thereafter. If we look at the road right now, you can see traffic is starting to slow down a little bit. What we do know is that the processional is not supposed to arrive here until 11:50, and then the service will begin at 1 o'clock. The service is supposed to last just under 2 hours, supposed to wrap up around 2:50. And if we take a look at the ilani sign, as we drove up here, we were able to see that. If you're able to look at it, you can see it's honoring Sergeant Jeremy Brown there. That is not the only sign that we've seen honoring the fallen officer. We saw a sign at Clark County Fairgrounds that said in honor of or remembering Sergeant Jeremy Brown. So the communities across Washington, southwestern Washington, are all in this together, are all spending this time today to honor Sergeant Jeremy Brown. As you said, Dan, as well as Evan, you know, he leaves behind a wife and 5 children, and his children vary in age from just 22 years old to 29 years old. And right now you're taking a look inside ilani Casino. It is just past this entrance area that the service will happen, again, starting at 1 o'clock, and we will be broadcasting that live here on K2. We hope that we are able to see that processional end here sometime within the next 20 minutes or so. And when we do, of course, we will come right back to you guys live once we see Sergeant Jeremy Brown's casket as well as the Honor Guard arrive here. Once they do arrive here, we know they will walk all the way through those flags and up through this area inside, and then we'll wait about an hour or so until the service starts. So we'll keep you updated on what we're seeing. For now, back to you guys in the studio.
Yeah, Genevieve, we've been watching this timeline as well with our vantage points, everything from your viewpoint there at ilani Casino to Chopper 2 overhead, watching the procession down I-5. We need to let you know as we're keeping track of the time here. So it's 11:30 right now. We've been on the air for 30 minutes. We just got word from our producer in the control room that the last car, we know Mike Warner has been watching that out at Clark Community College, the last vehicle just left that area about 3 minutes ago. So we've been telling you now here on K2 News, of course, as this has been going on, that there are about 300 law enforcement vehicles who showed up for this procession. As you're seeing on the left, the view from Chopper 2 overhead, watching the hearse and the casket, the body of Detective Sergeant Jeremy Brown making its way to ilani Casino. And on the right side of your screen, you're seeing that viewpoint from Dan McCarthy, our photographer Evan Bell, on that overpass as those vehicles continue to make their way as the interstate is closed to most traffic there.
Yeah, they expected it to take about 45 minutes. They said maybe 11:45 or 11:50, and they'd be arriving at ilani Casino. But we are getting word from Genevieve, who we just talked to, that they're just about there. They're about 5 minutes away. I know exactly where this rotary is. They're not that far away from ilani Casino. And then we're going to see the rest of the traffic. Obviously, it's going to take a while for the rest of the procession to get there and park. And then this is all starting at 1 o'clock. Genevieve told us, I think she said capacity is 2,500 at the casino. The public is welcome. They expect it to hit capacity. There are overflow locations where people can watch, and obviously you can watch it on TV. We're streaming it live at katu.com, the memorial service starting at 1 o'clock.
As you also heard from Genevieve, the family's asking for a bit of privacy in this moment. Our cameras won't necessarily show them, but it will show a lot of the gathering, a lot of the service that's gathered, as of course Sergeant Jeremy Brown was 46 years old. He leaves behind a wife, Jill, and 5 adult children. His family, friends, and colleagues talking about how he prioritized his family, faith, and friends in addition to his job as he was killed in the line of duty back on July 23rd. As we've been watching the outpouring of support, and you're seeing that vantage point from the overpass on the right side of your screen there as fire officials, law enforcement from all the area saluting as those cars are making their way along I-5 as the hearse and the casket showing up shortly to ilani Casino. And even in that
looks like they're
shot
arriving.
That shot from Chopper 2 overhead showing a line of American flags there as they're making that arrival, Angelica.
I think Genevieve's watching and listening, so hopefully she'll interrupt us when she sees the procession, the front of the procession approaching ilani, because the chopper's just zooming out right now.
The procession that's right there?
Yeah, that's Genevieve. Genevieve, can you see anything
on the
yet?
overpass.
Are you seeing it
Yeah, I
yet,
just heard you
Genevieve? Are
talking.
they
So,
pretty
yeah,
close?
Yeah, so the beginning of the procession is just coming over the overpass, which is right in front of what we're looking at right now. So it seems like they are turning onto the ilani property at this point. Like you guys have seen, there are several emergency vehicles in the front of this procession. If you're looking at our live shot right now, you can see those flashing lights as they go over the overpass on I-5. From what we understand is they will turn, I think they're going to circle this property, and then they're going to come around right to our left, and then they're going to drive through this line of, as we showed you earlier, of those officers holding those flags. So yes, the procession just got here much earlier than expected. Initially, they were anticipating this processional would arrive around 12:50. If you look at the clock right now, it's just about 11:35, so it's ahead of schedule. But as we know, the casket will be led by the honor guard, and then the family will follow shortly thereafter. And as you guys have been watching from the helicopter, as well as from Mike and from Dan, as there are hundreds of cars that are in this processional. So it will take a while for them to get through this casino. And yes, Angelica, 2,500 capacity inside ilani, and then there is an overflow location at a nearby church. And of course, you can watch the service right here on K2.com, as well as we'll be broadcasting it live on air. So there are plenty of opportunities for people to either hop online or to turn on their TV and start watching this. It starts at 1 o'clock, and again, it's supposed to go until around 2:50. So we'll keep an eye on this as they circle around ilani Casino. And then JMF, if you're able to pan just to your left, I want to show the line of officers holding those flags. As I mentioned earlier, we have people from the Seattle Police, from Tacoma Police, agencies all over Washington. And I think I heard Angelica saying there are people from Montana or showing support, at least from Montana. But things are definitely quieting down here as this processional makes its way to Ilani. Shortly, it should be turning the corner here within the next few minutes. So we'll keep an eye on it, and Angelica will let you know once it makes its way here.
Genevieve, we have a bird's eye view from the other side of the building. It looks like they have pulled up to the building, so it's going to happen any second now, and I'm going to be quiet as soon as it does happen. I just can't imagine what this is like for Sergeant Brown's family. Devastating, obviously, shocked probably, and when they see all of this support, that has got to make them feel a little bit better after the horrible couple of weeks that they have been through.
Hey, Genevieve, before we let you go, I do want to ask you a quick question about the process today, the service, the plans for that service, as we're watching those officers walk up to that hearse and that casket as they are making their way towards you, as you mentioned. You mentioned that Sergeant Jeremy Brown's wife, has asked for a little privacy, but she is going to speak there at Ilani Casino today. Who else is going to pay their respects at this memorial service coming up at 1 o'clock today?
Well, we know that there will be several colleagues who will also speak, but I think the most important speaker will, of course, be Sergeant Jeremy Brown's wife. As I mentioned earlier, yes, she is asking for some privacy. We will be able to record the audio of what she says and what she honors and remembers about her beloved husband, but we will not be able to actually film that. But of course, we will be listening in as to what she has to say. And again, you know, she is left with 5 adult children ranging in age from 22 years old to 29 years old. I can tell you that I know there will be a lot of speakers with this service lasting almost 2 hours. I imagine there will be a lot of colleagues and people who know and love Sergeant Jeremy Brown. So I don't have the full list of speakers, but of course we will be paying close attention to his wife as she honors her husband.
Yeah, and what we're watching right now, Genevieve, is the hearse with the sergeant's body and the vans behind it with the family members and the honor guard sort of escorting them onto the property right now. This is just remarkable, really.
Yeah, officers on horses right now as they are making their way around the casino to that vantage point that Genevieve will be able to give us as they make their way with that hearse, with that casket, as we've been watching this procession ongoing now. It's 11:38 this morning. We've been live on air since 11 o'clock, bringing you this live video, these live pictures from Chopper 2 overhead so you can see it all. As the Clark County community and really so much of the law enforcement community around the Pacific Northwest and beyond showing up in Vancouver, in Clark County, to pay their respects to the Sergeant Jeremy Brown, who was shot and killed on July 23rd, and his memory fresh in the minds of so many of the community there as this outpouring of support has continued as we speak. As we've been talking about everything that's going on and hearing from a lot of the community members.
Yeah, and in case you're just joining us, here's a little bit more about Sergeant Brown and his life. He was only 46 years old. He leaves behind a wife, Jill, and as we mentioned, 5 adult children. His family and friends say he prioritized his family, faith, and friends in addition to his job. He loved adventuring, camping, and hiking. Quite the outdoorsman. His obituary said his love for good food was second only to his love for his family. Let's toss it to Genevieve Rayom. Genevieve, what's going on?
The processional is just about to arrive here, Angelica. We can hear the music. We were just told honor guard to stand by, so at any moment you will see that processional make its way from behind the plants. I want to let you know we are in this specific location for a reason. Like we've said, the family has asked for privacy during this time. As this was set up, they wanted to ensure the first thing the family didn't see were all of these cameras. Obviously, we know this funeral is very important to people all across Southwest Washington. That's why we are here, so the community can honor and remember Sergeant Jeremy Brown. But we are placed here just a little bit farther back so the family has a time to enter into this service in a little bit of privacy. So shortly, the processional will make its way just past these bushes through the line of flags right there. As you had mentioned, the honor guard will lead and then the casket will follow, and then the family will be there shortly thereafter. Again, we are not filming the family, so we will just keep the camera on the front of the processional, give the family their privacy as they enter into ilani for the service to start, which does at 1 o'clock. Seems like it's getting a little bit closer. I don't know if you guys are able to hear that music or not, but it should just be in another, say, 1 or 2 minutes that the processional will make its way here. And then, as we understand it, people will make their way through this processional inside into the casino and then get seated and wait for the service to start about 1 o'clock. So stay tuned. We'll keep this shot up for you guys, and we'll let you know as soon as they make their way here.
And Genevieve, we are seeing everything you are saying right there, and we appreciate the updates from the ground there at ilani Casino, as we are also watching the view overhead from Chopper 2, and that imagery striking right now to see the high-flying American flag as the procession makes its way underneath, with those fire trucks paying honor, paying their respects to Sergeant Jeremy Brown, killed in the line of duty on July 23rd. As you're watching, of course, Genevieve, your camera vantage point from the ground there, as that honor guard is set up and preparing to welcome his casket, welcome his body there. As, of course, we're learning more about the detective who was shot and killed, some of his past history in law enforcement, in corrections, serving with the Washington State Department of Corrections in the jail, in the Department of Corrections, also as reserve officer with the Missoula County Sheriff's Office in Montana. So to say that it's only the Clark County community that's coming out for Detective Sergeant Jeremy Brown would be an understatement right now, with law enforcement from all over the area.
Yeah, and he was a Marine, and you know how proud the Marines are. He served as a police officer in the Marines. He is a Marine, correction. Never say was a Marine, he is a Marine.
Correct, yep.
So no doubt a lot of Marines are out showing their support today.
We are continuing to watch here on K2 News and, of course, KATU.com as our live coverage continues. The memorial procession for Detective Sergeant Jeremy Brown with the Clark County Sheriff's Office continuing here as we've been watching that procession continuing. Started at Clark College with our viewpoint from Mike Warner out there on the ground as people were lined up, those cars were lined up, as it's making its way right now, a slow procession at ilani Casino, slowly walking those vehicles, being led by the honor guard there on horseback, of course, and you are hearing those bagpipes playing with the vantage point from our camera there with Genevieve Rayom live on the ground, keeping us updated to what's been going on there at ilani Casino.
Yeah, we have so many cameras up. I can see the one on the highway, too, on I-5. The procession still making its way north on I-5. I think we said something like 300 vehicles left Clark College around 11 o'clock, a little bit after 11 o'clock. Firefighters, EMS, sheriff's deputies, police officers from all over. We know Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, probably farther than that. A lot of times when we have these services for law enforcement officers, people from all over the country send a representative from their departments. So many of the 2,000 people that will be at ilani Casino paying their respects at 1 o'clock, you know, they're coming from all over the country.
And you might be seeing a lot of these honors, this memorial, this way to recognize Detective Sergeant Jeremy Brown really wherever you live in the state of Washington right now, because Washington Governor Jay Inslee has ordered flags at half staff there at all state agency facilities in memory of Sergeant Jeremy Brown. So that's going to happen all day today until close of business tonight, as you are seeing that vantage point from the ground, those bagpipes arriving as we are seeing the front of the procession.
Let's pause and listen and watch what's happening right outside ilani Casino.
Now, right now, you are seeing Sergeant Jeremy Brown's hearse being led by several horses. The very front of this processional are firefighters on bagpipes. Those firefighters are from Seattle, Portland, and Puget Sound fire departments. You can see that hearse coming to a stop right now. From what we know, what is next is his casket will be led inside. And then, of course, he'll be followed by his family. So let's take a look.
A heartbreaking scene, something no law enforcement family should ever have to experience, as Clark County Detective Sergeant Jeremy Brown's casket is led into the building at ilani Casino.